What do you think about Joseph Kennedy?
What about him? I liked him. I mean, he did amazing stuff. He created a clan. He nourished his kids to become leaders, and he was a very good father in the end. He turned out to be a very good father.
Did he ever inspire you want to do a movie on him or a documentary on him?
No, way too. No, he was the progeny. He's the progenitor of a family. I admired John, as you know, and Robert very much, and Ted too, as well as his sisters.
So you wouldn't have interest in doing a movie like? Man, I'd love to see you do something on Joseph Kennedy. It'd be.
Why you?
What angle do you think?
Are you kidding me? Like if there's yeah. So if I ever wanted to get into, in 2 to 5 years, we're going to get into movies. Not right now. We're building this whole thing. We're going to, build the Burbank of East Coast here in Fort Lauderdale. We think that's a great market
anyway,
for it, right?
I suggest a book. If you're interested in Joe Kennedy, there's a wonderful book, fiction by Richard Condon, who wrote Manchurian Candidate. It's called Mile High.
Is it on him?
It's a wonderful book. It's about it's about Joe Kennedy, but it's a fiction.
Fictionalized version.
Mile
High. What does it say?
Rob, can you send that to me so I can buy it?
I'm looking right now.
It's a
If you
great
can
story.
send it to me, that'd be
it's
great.
A wonderful story.
Is it called Seed of Destruction? Or no, that's
Mile
not it.
High. It's called.
I don't see Mile High anywhere. But anyways, if you find it, send it to me.
Richard Condon, Condon. Come on, Rob, you find everything.
There you go.
Rob, if you can send that over to me, I want to read that book.
There it is.
1969. Oh, wow. Oh, there you go. Yeah, send it over to me. That'd be great. So it's an older book that was written on it.
Nothing wrong with that, is
No,
there?
I love it. I don't have any problem with that. That's why you're here. I'm borrowing your wisdom. But Joseph Kennedy, why not, right? To me, like, what is a bigger last name than the Kennedy last name? And who was the visionary behind it? The amount of stories of him sitting down with the kids at night, who's going to be the president, all these different things you hear about and, never wanted to get, at least from the books I read, didn't want to give credit to the family that he came from, a family of money where he wanted to kind of like, there's some of those stories that comes out that, he went to Harvard, president of a bank, 28 years old.
Gloria Swanson.
I don't know. I think it's a very interesting story. I think it's a very, very interesting story. And it's got such a long lifespan that it's an 80 years into,
Yeah, but that's hard for movies. Remember that.
I know. So you have to go like 20 years, right? You have to go like to a scene. Is that kind of...
There's no rule at all.
But why are you saying it's hard to do it like that? What
Because
makes
of the time span.
So then you can pick an era to go through, right?
But you just limited it.
Then if you're going to make it, I trust you to do it. I'm not...
You got to find your significant points that you want to make.
Right. Yeah, I just think that guy is one of the biggest power players we had in America, and he'd be a very interesting guy to study. I think the new era doesn't know as much about him to realize the impact he made.
There was a long period, and he was on the outs. Roosevelt wouldn't talk to him.
Right.
He was down on his luck. He couldn't get the impact he wanted. He became frustrated during the war.
He wasn't respected. And
then after the war, he bounced back with his oldest son died, killed in an accident in war. And then his second son, he groomed belatedly for the presidency. He won the Senate. He won the House in 47 or 40, about 47. And then senator in 52, right? So he groomed John as his replacement.
You don't want to do anything on him.
It's a great story, but I know the story. I mean,
I don't. The world doesn't know.
There's another story about Kennedy I would like to sell.
What's that?
But they won't let me do that. I can't tell you. I wouldn't.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, your thoughts with all these total amount of hours you put into the JFK assassination story, investigating, right? All the hours that you put into it. Okay.
I'm not going to give you a quick summation. No.
There's this guy that just I don't know if you've been following it closely. I'm sure you're very busy making movies, so maybe you're not following the news. There's this guy named Donald J. Trump that just became this thing they call in America.
What do you mean I don't follow the news?
Right? And he, Bobby is now involved. He's got a pretty heavy job, right?
I know Bobby.
Do you think, since his involvement being in there, we're finally going to get to the bottom of the CIA documents to see what really happened?
Well, there's no bottom to it because the CIA doesn't put that stuff on paper. But there are a lot of files on people in the CIA at that time, such as James Angleton. That was the big place to start. That's a counterterrorism chief of all those years. James Angleton, you've ever heard of him? A very important figure. And you have to go into him to begin, and then there's other people like Bill Harvey and Phillips, David Atlee Phillips. There's Howard Hunt. There's the other guy, George Joanides. From those guys, you should track. And they've done nothing. The CIA has done nothing to cooperate with any official. They've been the most hidden organization ever. They've only one time have they ever been examined, and that was in Frank Church's committee of 1973-4. Frank Church, great senator, and they found a nest of evil that was so intense, with so many assassinations, sabotage, against America's interests, and they told us the whole time it was for our interests. We killed people who ended up being heroes, and we paid the price. I mean, we're paying the price now, insofar as we have no idea what's our own history.
Well, I mean,
no idea of how we've thwarted history, and we're going towards a very dangerous moment right now. But that's another discussion completely.
You know about the forces involved in the coup against the Shah in '79. I mean, 78, 79, that time period, right? You saw it.
Well,
I have my impression. I want to know which one you think. Which direction are you going?
Oh, I think it was a coup. I think the U.S. and British wanted to see him go.
I agree.
I think he was too independent and powerful, and I don't know if it came
well,
at
the moment. They put him there in the first place.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he didn't become too independent and powerful for their taste.
He did.
And I think that, I don't know if it happened at the moment they discovered he had cancer, which was, I think, like 75, 6. They said, okay, he's weakening. We got to replace this. But I would say that the Arc of Crisis story, remember the Arc of Crisis that Huntington and Brzezinski were talking about in the late 70s, of this idea of this radical Islam, they were already perpetuating the notion of clash of civilizations at that time. And it's not just, saying there's a clash of civilizations between Orthodox Christianity and Islam. They were pushing for these rifts, as in Lebanon, as in, not Syria at that point, but in Iran in particular. I think the fact that Khomeini was being protected in the West is very indicative, and that the BBC was broadcasting his messages from, all of his messages being broadcast by the BBC in Iran is indicative. Because that's intelligence. That's how it works. It doesn't just work with a guy going in coup. There's different dimensions to it. You've got to prepare the population. You've got to put money towards this. You've got to make sure that you fly the guy in and say, okay, now he's your new leader. I mean, they knew who Khomeini was. You know how crazy it was to send him back, right?
Twice in exile, living in France, Paris, making tapes that they're spreading all over Iran, spreading the message. Very, very interesting what happened with that. And the Shah had the 25-year oil agreement that they had from 54 to 79 that was expiring. So these guys had a meeting because they knew he was about to be a very, very powerful man. And that was a concern of theirs, of what happened there. But I wonder, like, some of these, for you, like, do you have selfish reasons on things, like even right now, it just happened where I said, I can't find a book. And it's a mile high. Richard Condon, can you go look it up? He looks it up. He says, here we go. We found it, right? You have the element of doing a doc to say, I was right. This is what happened. All the criticism that they write about whatever you make. Is there a desire for you to get to the bottom of JFK? Like, is there?
Of course. Well, it seems like we have already accumulated such evidence. It's prima facie, it seems. How can you deny it? How can you deny it? And especially now that we're going through so much revelation on conspiracies left, right. This is what the world is. It's like been working that way. The United States has been working duplicitously for years to create this empire that we have, that we deny that we have. We have 800 bases. We're all over the world. In every single spot, we have our finger everywhere. And we're stirring this constantly. We're busy like malevolent dwarfs, but we're there, everywhere.
And what concerns you about that?
We're heading towards a nuclear war. We created enemies that are not necessary. That's what mostly affects me, because if we blow up this thing, it'll be like that scene on the beach when Fred Astaire says, I don't know how it started. It'll be like that. But I know how it started because it started here. These people who are running Washington right now, these neoconservatives that are in charge, are the most dangerous people we've ever had in the world. They're the antithesis of what America was about. Antithesis.
Who?
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 Well, I would, right now in this time period, it goes back to the 1990s when they formed up. But before that, it goes way back to the 1940s. Before that, to the 1919s. Right now, it would be, the Biden administration is playing with fire. They've taken this thing to the edge with Russia.
They're now the neocons? They're the new the liberals are the new neocons. How weird is that?
Isn't that so bizarre?
How weird is that, Oliver, for you?
The real liberals, people who are really into liberalism like me, who care about it, the John Stuart Mill kind, are disgusted by these people who are saying are pro-war, they're pro-interference in other people's affairs. They're trying to tell people how to live. That's not the way Mr. Mill described liberalism. Leave them alone. Let live and let live is my philosophy. And get along with your neighbors. What's going on now is Mr. Blinken and Sullivan and all these people that are in the administration are very dangerous people because they pushed this thing with Ukraine to a place where it had no American interest is at stake, none. And Mr. Biden, without a mandate, declared that we have to weaken Russia without a mandate. He didn't put it up for voting. He said, "Do you want to go to war with Russia? Do you want to have American missiles flying into Russia?" This is outrageous. It never would have happened. You realize in Kennedy's time, it would have been a declaration of war. And that's what's going on without our knowing it. We're asleep to that because they it's like boiling the frog. They take it up, a little incline by incline.
Yeah.
You're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but the last 13 and a half years, I've been working on my first fiction book to write, ever. Fiction book to write. And while I finished this book, a year ago, I got the strangest phone call about one of the characters in the book where the guy wanted to meet with me and he read the book. And afterwards is like, wait a minute, am I the villain in the book? This is a story about a character named Asher, who is half Armenian, half Assyrian, whose father was involved in the Iranian Revolution, linked to Savak, working with the Shah, that they escape and he gets recruited to a secret society. Well, when you go to the secret society, it's been around for a couple thousand years. They've developed some of the craziest leaders of all time. And they test you. There's unique tests that they have at the society where they test to see your emotional mental toughness. One of the tests that they have is very rigorous. It's purely mental. Of course, there's a physical one, but one is mental and emotional. If you're Armenian, if you're Syrian, if you're Persian, this is a book you're going to be reading and saying, holy moly, this is the kind of stuff you talk about in here? Yes. If you're somebody that's fascinated by history, this is a book for you. Characters. There's a technology that this society, secret society, builds where you go into a vault. I won't spoil it for you. When you go down, they have a technology where you get to sit down and watch and have a 3-4 hour conversation with Tupac. You can set up a debate between Karl Marx and Ayn Rand. Karl Marx is in the book, who wrote Communist Manifesto. Ayn Rand, who wrote Atlas Shrugged, is in the book. Marilyn Monroe explains the concept of seduction and sex in the book. When you read the book, it's about development of the next leaders in the world and how they do it and how they've been doing it for many years. And it's also about how to prevent the end of civilization and how this organization goes about doing it. So, I've never written a parenting book before, but if I ever wrote a parenting book, this is the closest thing to it because it's all mindset, a lot of crazy stories. Again, 13 and a half years. Trust me, I told myself I will not publish this book until I sell my insurance company and I'm fully disconnected from it, where it's no longer my responsibility 100%. When you read this, if you're a creative person, if you like fiction books, if you enjoyed Atlas Shrugged, or if you enjoy Divergent, if you like books like that, I think you're gonna enjoy reading this book. It's the creative side. Business books is very easy. Here's how you do it. Here's how this how it works. This is very creative. If you haven't placed the order yet, now you can order it on Simon & Schuster, Amazon. I'm gonna put the link up below somewhere here, maybe even in my profile. Go order the book and read it. I sincerely, I've never written a book where I can't wait to read your reviews to see what you think about this book. So I'm going on this wild journey, and we have some plans with this book here. If you support the things that I work on, I would appreciate you going and reading the book, order the book on Amazon, and then post a review. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.